The Ayatollah is dead. Opening salvo in a transforming Middle East war. Events moved at breakneck speed. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been eliminated. The sheer velocity of this operation stunned observers worldwide. Look back at historical precedents for context. After the 2003 Iraq invasion, U.S. forces searched for Saddam Hussein relentlessly. He evaded capture for nearly 9 months, finally dragged from a spider hole in December. In Libya, 2011, NATO air support helped, but it was NTC rebels who tracked, captured, and ultimately killed Muammar Gaddafi in Sirte after months of civil war. Iran proved dramatically different. The opening strike of this conflict, literally the first major action, removed the supreme leader from the board. Yet geopolitics rarely resembles a simple board game. Eliminating the king does not end play. The pieces keep moving, often more chaotically. Today marks only the initial chapter of what will likely become a drawn-out, multifaceted confrontation involving military, economic, cyber, proxy, and internal dimensions. Inside the high-risk morning strike, a target of extraordinary value for weeks, I have followed Iranian developments with intense focus. When superpowers reposition aircraft carriers, destroyers, refueling tankers, and bomber squadrons toward the Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea, those movements carry unmistakable weight. They signaled genuine readiness far beyond routine safety. Standard U.S. doctrine prefers launching major air operations under cover of darkness. Night strikes leverage stealth technology, night vision superiority, degraded enemy radar effectiveness, limited visual acquisition of incoming aircraft, and critically minimized civilian exposure in urban or industrial target areas. Recent examples reinforce the pattern. The Special Forces led nighttime operation to detain Venezuelan President Maduro in late 2025 lasted only hours and exploited darkness for surprise and extraction similarly. The larger-scale 2025 nighttime bombing campaign that severely damaged key nodes of Iran's nuclear infrastructure followed the same high-precision template. Tehran midnight roughly equals 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Washington. That time difference usually allowed reasonable confidence that major kinetic action would wait until after sunrise in a rung of analysts and markets a predictable window. Not today. Waking on the morning of February 28th, precisely 1 year after the dramatic Oval Office confrontation that reshaped us, foreign policy posture discovered the U.S.-Israeli coalition had already executed devastating opening moves. Initial reaction: this had to be an opportunistic strike too valuable to delay until nightfall, overriding normal caution. And the intelligence jackpot was indeed exceptional. Over the preceding 8 months, CIA and allied agencies maintained persistent surveillance of Khamenei's security detail, travel patterns, meeting habits, and emergency relocation protocols. Insights gained during Israel's ferocious 12-day war in 2025 proved especially useful, revealing how the supreme leader's inner circle responded under heavy bombardment. Analysts identified an extraordinarily Haveliya convening a morning summit of Iran's most senior military, security, and political figures, held at a well-known government compound in northern Tehran. Attendees reportedly included the supreme leader himself, Defense Minister Mohammad Rased, IRGC Commander Hossein Salami, Ali Samkani, head of the Supreme National Security Council and Military Council Coordinator, plus several other top decisions. Simultaneous factors tipped the balance toward immediate action. Iran's continued refusal of US-led demands for a complete zero-enrichment rollback, precedent indicating possible preemptive Iranian missile or drone preparations against American bases in Iraq, Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE, and the rare convergence of so many priority targets in one lightly defended location. Washington relayed precise coordinates and timing windows to Jerusalem. Israeli leadership approved within hours. At 7:30 a.m. Tehran time, waves of F-35I Adir and F-15I Ram fighters departed multiple Israeli air, escorted by electronic warfare aircraft and supported by real-time refueling. The package penetrated Iranian airspace with minimal detection. By 9:40 a.m., the strike package arrived over target. Approximately 30 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs and JDAM-equipped munitions slammed into 2 adjacent buildings within the compound. One structure was assessed as Khomeini's primary meeting venue. The second housed overflow senior officials and command staff. Initial battle damage assessments confirmed rapidly by Western intelligence. Fusion cells were catastrophic for the regime. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei killed instantly. Defense Minister Astiani. Deceased IRGC Commander Salami eliminated. Ali Shamkhani confirmed dead. Several lesser generals and key advisors also perished. The war against Iran has only begun. Ground incursions, cyber escalation, proxy activation, Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi Mali, and potential Strait of Hormuz. Disruptions all loom. Success will depend on sustained pressure across multiple domains, not this single spectacular hit. Nevertheless, delivering such a decapitating blow in the conflict's opening minutes gives the coalition an extraordinary psychological, operational, and political head start. Khomeini's two decisive strategic errors. This is unequivocally a devastating setback for the Islamic Republic and its ruling clique. Countless commentaries will soon flood the discourse, attributing blame across dozens of variables. For clarity, I see two overarching mistakes, one tactical, proximate, one strategic, underlying, that together explain why events culminated so catastrophically on February 28th. Proximate error, fatal underestimation of imminent threat, and lacks operational security. No rational leader relishes spending weeks or months in underground bunkers simply because foreign carriers appear on the horizon. That concession alone feels like strategic defeat. Yet there's a vast chasm between prudent caution and scheduling the single most important regime conclave of the year in an above-ground, known Tehran facility with zero dispersal, minimal air defenses, and virtually every high-value target presents simultaneously. Reconciling that decision requires believing one or both of two dangerously flawed assumptions. Iranian counterintelligence had achieved near-perfect operational security, ensuring neither American nor Israeli services possessed actionable, real-time location data. Even if locations were compromised, launching a daylight, masked airstrike deep inside Iranian territory against the capital remained logistically or politically infeasible for the coalition. Both judgments proved catastrophically wrong. Khamenei personally survived a 1981 assassination attempt during a public speech in Tehran University Anatech. That left shrapnel in his body and permanently impaired function in his right arm, a detail frequently remarked upon when archival footage circulated. One might have expected lifelong hypervigilance after such an experience. Apparently not. The successful nighttime extraction of Maduro from Caracas mere months earlier should have demolished any lingering myth of location. Invisibility in the modern intelligence environment, when the United States maintains robust human signals and overhead assets across the theater. Prudent actors must default to the assumption that movements are track-tent. Behave accordingly. Iran's leadership failed that basic test. Underlying error: the decades-long nuclear pursuit that hollowed the nation without delivering deterrence. The second wave of analysis will soon proclaim variations on a familiar theme. Khomeini's greatest blunder was failing to sprint to a deliverable nuclear weapon years earlier. Had Iran crossed the threshold, regime change attempts would have been deterred. Every other autocrat will now race to acquire bombs. This is not insight. It is recycled conventional wisdom that collapses under historical scrutiny. We heard identical arguments after Gaddafi's fate in 2011, after Saddam's removal in 2003, after the 1991 Gulf War rollback. Each time, pundits predicted a global proliferation cascade. Each time, the predicted rush failed to materialize. Why? Because senior decision-makers worldwide already internalized the basic lesson. An operational nuclear arsenal dramatically raises the cost of external regime change efforts. This is not a revelation discovered only in 2026. It constitutes international relations 111. The real barrier preventing wider proliferation is not lack of awareness, it's the forbidding combination of economic cost, diplomatic isolation, technical hurdles, and preemption risk during the vulnerable development phase. Consider Iran's own experience. Senior regime officials have privately conceded the nuclear program drained roughly $2 trillion from the economy over 4 decades. Direct costs, lost oil revenue from sanctions, frozen assets, black market premiums, diverted investment, etc. $2 trillion. Pause and absorb that figure. For perspective, that sum exceeds the entire GDP of many mid-sized nations across multiple years. Had even a fraction been redirected toward domestic infrastructure, job creation, water desalination, healthcare modernization, education reform, or social safety improvements, widespread public discontent might have remained far more contained. Instead, cumulative economic strangulation, exacerbated by sanctions, tied directly to the nuclear file-fueled repeated protest waves. 2009 Green Movement, 2017 to 18 economic protests, 2019 fuel price uprising, 2022 Masa Amini uprising, and the 2025 to 26 resurgence. Those grievances provided the internal tinder that external military pressure has now ignited. Nuclear weapons undoubtedly offer powerful insurance once fielded, but the multi-decade path to acquisition is punishing. Astronomical financial hemorrhage, layered international sanctions eroding living standards, repeated sabotage Stuxnet, assassinations of scientists, explosions at Natanz Fordo Parchin, credible threat of preventive military strikes throughout the enrichment ladder. Iran's leadership wagered national resources on eventual breakout capability and lost the domestic legitimacy wager long before. Israeli bombs found Khomeini on February 28th. Few rational actors will eagerly imitate that tragic trajectory tomorrow. Iran's dangerous succession vacuum, no easy off-ramp. Iran possesses no automatic succession mechanism comparable to the US 25th Amendment or even many monarchies. Autocracies generally avoid designating clear heirs because visible successes invite palace intrigue, premature power grabs, or assassination incentives against the incumbent. Khomeini reportedly maneuvered 4 years to position his son Mojtaba as de facto successor, appointing loyalists, expanding clerical influence, and sidelining rivals. With the father gone, Mojtaba loses his indispensable patron and faces immediate legitimacy challenges from senior clerics. Factions, an assembly of experts members who view hereditary succession as quasi-monarchical heresy against revolutionary ideals. Contrast Iran's structural rigidity with the relatively malleable situation in Venezuela last autumn. There, a swift U.S. operation removed Maduro, installed a transitional figure Delcy Rodriguez Seta, and secured pragmatic compliance on oil revenue allocation. Venezuelan elites were largely transactional opportunists rather than committed self-preservation trumped revolutionary fervor. Democratic institutions, however distorted, already existed beneath the autocratic crust, allowing external actors to push realignment without total institutional destruction. Outcomes remain uncertain, but the pathway at least exists. No analogous easy button awaits in Iran. The Islamic Republic maintains performative elections for president and parliament, yet real power resides with the supreme leader, who outranks the elected executive. Selection of the next supreme leader falls to the assembly of expats, body of 88 hardline clerics screened for ideological purity. Any new leader deviating toward pragmatism, sanctions relief, nuclear compromise, détente with the West would immediately face accusations of betrayal from the very guardians who elevated him. Risk in swift removal, or worse, the prospective supreme leader thus confronts a brutal dilemma: assassination threats from external powers, ongoing US-Israeli targeting, versus internal purges from revolutionary purists who demand uncompromising resistance. It is the epitome of a no-win position. From Washington's perspective, this precarious dynamic actually serves broader objectives. The strategic goal is not merely replacing one leader with a more compliant version. It is catalyzing fundamental regime transformation. Khomeini's elimination advances that agenda in two concrete ways. Protests rekindling and coordination catalyst. Recent weeks saw renewed street demonstrations despite ferocious crackdowns. Internet blackouts, mass arrests, and lethal force made large-scale coordination extraordinarily difficult. The public killing of the supreme leader, who many Iranians hold personally responsible for economic misery and violent suppression of prior uprisings, provides an unmatched focal point. Leaked videos already show spontaneous celebrations in Tehran, Isfahan, Tabriz, and Mashhad. Pro-regime counter-demonstrations also appear in state media, so skepticism remains warranted about claims of imminent total collapse. Still, history shows regime legitimacy erodes fastest when an unpopular leader's death removes fear of his personal retribution. Momentum appears to favor renewed mobilization. Engineered succession in fighting, absence of a designated successor triggers dual processes. Formal assembly of experts convenes likely within days to nominate and vote on a replacement. Informal power centers, IRGC factions, clerical networks, Bazari merchants, Quds force remnants, presidential loyalists maneuver aggressively, seizing interim ministries, controlling media narratives, detaining rivals, forging coalitions, and establishing facts on the ground to appear inevitable. If hardliners rapidly consolidate, possible under an aging but ruthless clerical figure, command coherence strengthens, prolonging effective war resistance. If factional competition fractures authority, more likely given competing egos and resource scarcity, decision-making paralysis, resource hoarding, and mutual sabotage could severely degrade military coordination, opening space for internal revolt and accelerating regime erosion. The ideal from U.S.-Israeli standpoint outcome is sustained, debilitating elite infighting that weakens frontline defenses, emboldens protest waves, fractures security apparatus loyalty, and creates conditions for genuine transition. We are already hearing Reza Polavitha, exiled son of the last, Shah, position himself publicly as transitional figurehead for a potential constitutional monarchy or secular republic. Such language would have seemed fanciful even 6 months ago. In March 2026, it is part of mainstream discourse. Downside risks are substantial. Prolonged leadership chaos almost certainly damages critical infrastructure, power grids already strained, refineries vulnerable, export terminals exposed. Oil markets face immediate upward pressure. Iran pumps approximately 3.2 million barrels per day. Even partial disruption or Strait of Hormuz threats could spike Brent crude toward $110 to $130 per barrel, hammering consumers from Putna to Pennsylvania to Putin. Strategically, however, an Iran unable to export oil inflicts greater long-term pain on Beijing than short-term price pain inflicts on the West. Denying China discounted barrels aligns with core, Pentagon, and State Department priorities in great power competition. Step in bike. The image of Saddam Hussein's statue toppling in Firdos Square on April 9, 2003, remains seared in memory, a moment brimming with euphoria and infinite possibility. Many possibilities proved dark. Sectarian civil war, ISIS emergence, hundreds of thousands dead, trillions spent, regional destabilization all followed. Iran stands at a comparable historical crossroads today. The path forward could lead toward pluralism and reintegration, or toward fragmentation, prolonged violence, refugee waves, and new proxy battlegrounds. No one can yet say which fork the nation will take. For a detailed examination of why the nuclear pursuit became Iran's slow-motion strategic catastrophe, watch my earlier video link below. If today's analysis helped clarify this fast-moving story, please like, comment your thoughts, share widely, and subscribe for ongoing updates. The situation evolves hourly. Stay sharp. Take care.